Hello everybody, how are we doing? Just eating a little bit of a snack while we get started here. Here's the first model that we're going to be painting tonight, and it is the Gazer and Spectator. By special request from a local gaming club. Well, I wasn't a special request. Somebody asked for some advice on painting a model, and I said, hey, what are you painting? And they said this, and then I just decided that that would be the next model that I painted. And if you, sir, are out there tonight, I look forward to painting this along with you today. And don't worry, I won't be using the airbrush for this model. This is for what comes later. That's for what's next. Okay. Now we are actually good to get started. Got my airbrush cleaned. I got my snack. Let's do this. Alright, so my goal here is to make painting this model as beginner friendly as possible. So that's what we're gonna do. Delete this. So we're gonna grab let's go ahead and grab out our monster manual. Just because I didn't actually realize that this creature existed. And I think that maybe you guys didn't either. Apparently it is a beholder that is summoned, or a beholder-like creature that is summoned and used to guard a spot for up to 100 years from anyone but its summoner. Slaads. I cannot wait to paint some slaads. Or slads. There's Spectre. Uh-oh. Did we cover it? Did we go past it? Let's go to the front here. Oh, it doesn't appear that Spectator is actually in the monster manual here. Maybe it's under Beholder? Page 26. Yeah, here's the Variations Death Tyrant. And there we go. There's our Spectator. Huh, 101 years. Sorry, everybody. Yeah, so it looks like we kind of got greenish skin, things like that. And then the eyes and the mouth. So nothing crazy. I think this is going to be a fun thing to paint. Let's go ahead and get started. Grab some brushes. And then, yeah, we got a good base coating brush. I hope everybody's having a really good week. I'm having a really great week so far. Need to open this puppy up. Now, to the point of I want to make this as easy as possible, I'm going to go ahead and just go along with the pre-priming done on the WizKids models. And what we're going to do is we're going to paint this up to a really good standard that I think anybody that isn't a miniature painter would absolutely love to have on their Dungeons and Dragons table. And then we'll just continue on from there to kind of push it just a little bit. Now here's the question. Are gazers a creature? It says spectator and gazers. Or gazer, sorry. As in one who gazes. No, I don't see one in here. So I think for now we'll just stick with just the spectator. So pretty good model, all things considered. Pretty bad mold lines, but we'll fix those a little bit here. I usually don't mind too much mold lines, especially for D&D models, but we'll fix them up a little bit. Okay. So we're just going to go ahead and using the back of an X-Acto knife for the big sections. I like to use a sanding stick like this, just gently getting rid of some of that mold line. Looks like we got some on the tongue here. Definitely gotta get rid of the mold line right across all the eyes here. A really unfortunate casting of this monster, given how much of it is focused around the eyes. I wish sometimes they put a little bit more thought into less the economy of these injection molds and more the look of the creatures afterwards. That's just a little bit though. I mean, Nolzur's Marvelous Miniatures do such a good job. And this is an X-Acto knife. It's not a very sharp one. I use this for like more heavy duty things. And it's a little bit dull, which is perfect for removing mold lines. Because this is kind of one of the spots where you have a tendency to maybe accidentally slip a little bit. And you don't want a super sharp knife. Not just for your finger's sake, but for your model's sake. And I think the original question was regarding washes. So we're going to be talking a lot and really doing a deep dive on how we're going to use washes on this model. Because what I want to do is I want to use as many different kinds of washes as possible. Including at the end, maybe even an oil wash. So we're going to be using a lot of washes tonight, and we're just going to get some base coats, some base colors blocked in, and then we're going to go ahead and go wash crazy. And we're going to see just exactly what all we can do with that. One's down here, like right in this groove here. I'm not going to worry about trying to get to that. That's one that's only going to get seen if someone's looking for something. And if they're looking for some kind of imperfection in our work, they're going to always find it, guys. These right here, these are really bad. Jeez. So what I did there was I sanded away the line, and since this is really nice and regimented plate, almost like bumps, I'm just re-establishing that really deep groove here on the model. And again, this is why I like to use an X-Acto knife still instead of a model scraper, because then it still allows you to do something like this. Although actually, is that right? Is that segmented different? Okay. Where's my thingy? There's looking here. Okay, so it does have a little bit of a line down the center, so that's okay. We can leave that. We're actually going to leave all of them then. If you look here on the model, you can see there's a line. Get this close enough so everyone can actually see. You might not be able to see this, but down these grooves, there is actually a line on the model, or like a little raised billet. So we're going to go ahead and keep that. Okay, so then take back what I said about the mold lines before. That was actually really smart of them to do. They were hidden, they were just incorporated into the model's design. Okay. Oh, it looks like I accidentally got rid of a little bit of them. That's fine. Oh dear, okay. So I guess then the only thing we're really looking at is flash. So we're gonna keep that. It's so hard because it looks like that's like a glaring mold line, but it's not. It's part of the model. Oops. I've done that before. Okay, so yeah, actually, I take it all back. You guys did a great job on this model. Whoever was in charge of doing this Nolzur's one, this is good. And they always do. I do like this. They do the tongue mold line down the side, as opposed to down the front. And they left this eye nice and clear, nice and clean for us to screw up a bunch of freehanding on. Okay, so let's go ahead and get him mounted up onto one of our model holders. I still love these GW ones. I know a lot of people use a lot of different things. I still adore these. They're nice and big. I have arthritis in my hands and have trouble a lot of the time with shaky hands, and having something this big is really great. Having something this small and skinny sometimes leads to cramping. So I really do appreciate the larger model holders. I need to get more of them before they stop being able to find them anywhere. And I'm not looking to get this super secure. I just want to make sure it doesn't fall off. Oh, I guess I should pop on Discord and tell that local store that I'm painting this model for this guy so that he sees it. Well, let me make sure he responded the last time I pinged him. I'll tell you what. Let's do something a little bit different. Oh wow, can I get this less glary? Oh nope. Wrong way, y'all. I do just a little bit of light. That's not so bad. Oh, wait, I need to wait for the live to catch up. Let's go ahead and do this. Okay, yeah, I like that. All right. Oh, let's get a picture where I'm not making a really silly face. There we go. I think there's actually a way for me to see who's in the chat too as well. Let me see here, 2 viewers. We've got, oh wait, where are they? Sorry, I noticed that we don't actually have very many watchers, so if you want me to move along, please just ping me. Otherwise, I'm actually just trying to look at some of these new things that I have. I've started looking at Twitch more in depth. There's a lot of really cool things that you can see and learn and do, and I just haven't really given it a good look. It looks like right now we have my wife's account lurking and the moderator restream bot. So I'm gonna wait for us to get some people hanging out here. I think. See what we got going first. Everything should be muted actually. Looks like my D&D group is hitting up TikToks. Let's see here. Do. Okay. I guess I should add the Twitch stream. Oops. I feel really bad. I'm part of a a group of streamers that like to support each other, and work was too busy. I didn't get to lurk on anyone's channel. Okay, camera, focus. Let's focus on what we need to focus on. All right, there we go. Okay, so we're just going to plow on in case people watch this later on YouTube. I don't want them to waste too much of their time, and I'll try and put so I do a lot of this setup stuff at the beginning of videos, so I will try and always include like a little timestamp as to when I do stuff. I think actually that's an idea I just had that might be very useful for those of you that watch these back on YouTube. So that's actually a really good idea. So we're going to start with painting him with a little bit of a base coat of yellow, I believe, because it looks like we have like a yellowish green. So we'll start with the green actually. So we'll start with like a nice medium mid-tone green. We'll add like a little bit of yellow to it. I don't need this right now. Oh man, it's covered in rubbing alcohol. Gross. And then we'll just be a little bit careful around the eyes and such. So let's go ahead and grab our yellow, and I'm still really digging this army green. It's just such a really good green. So we're going to shake these up, get them on our palette. And we'll see what our palette looks like here first, actually. Oh, that's not bad. There's a cat hair on my mic. Okay, we're good. And we're just using like a crappy brush for this, because we're just going to be getting all over the model and such. And a little bit of army green down there, good deal. And just a little bit of desert yellow. Go ahead and recenter the camera there. You can always tell when I've been recording because all my camera settings are all over the place. Okay. There's our nice good mid-tone green. Now we just got paint all up in our brush, so we're going to make sure to wash it off really, really well. Otherwise it will ruin our brush. And then we're going to dry off our brush just a little bit. Because when you have a wet palette, sometimes you get the tendency for your paint to be a little bit too thin, but that should be good. And then we're just going to start going to town on this guy. So this is what I'm talking about when I say like a more beginner centric one. We're not worrying about lighting or anything right now. We're just going to go ahead and just paint it like the box art. I feel like on quite a few of our more recent sessions, we've really been pushing the time and the effort in every single model, which is fun a lot of the time, but sometimes it's nice just to relax and do a nice tiny little monster like this in a much more easygoing fashion. Paint's a little bit thin, so I'm going to wash off my brush again and make sure we get this nice and clean. Hey! Bye, Master. How you doing, man? Finishing up with the PT site. I hear ya. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. I was starting to get a little bit lonely. We are painting up a Spectator, which is a beholder-like creature from Dungeons and Dragons. And we're trying to focus this week on just a really simple scheme. So we're gonna do pretty much just our base coats and a wash, and then maybe we'll start. That'll be a good stopping point to kind of transition and talk about our lighting and such. Oh, actually, Pie Master is a commission of mine. I need to pick up a model from you. You need to shoot me a message. We need to arrange me picking up the rest of that. We need to figure out a date and a time for you and I to meet up for you to give me that last model for your Fire Slayer's army. Don't let me forget this weekend. Right here with the eye, no big deal. If we overpaint it just a little bit, not the end of the world. You can see I did right there. Right now we're just focused on getting a nice thin coat of paint down. So there are no worries. Come on, just kind of look at the model from every angle. Sometimes it's hard to make sure that you got paint everywhere. Yeah, looks good. Yeah, the you need to give me a Godric. Or did you have another one besides that? Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. In addition to that, that's perfectly fine. I still have to work on the basing for some of your guys. I was going through and getting final pictures because I got really behind on my pictures, and my awesome wife offered to help me catch up. And I realized that some of your guys were still unbased, and I'd put them back in the carrying case. So I need to finish up the basing on all of your guys. I thought they were all done, but I think at one point I was just cleaning up my desk area, and they got put in the carrying case, and then I just kind of forgot that they didn't have bases done. So yeah, I was like, yeah, you're not ready to give them to you yet, not just yet. Oh, that's a mold line we need to make sure we get rid of. Oh yeah, still on sprue. Best thing you can do for your commission painters, guys. If you ever get anything, Dungeons and Dragons figures, models, accessories, Warhammer, whatever it is, still on sprue is absolutely ideal. For the smaller companies, I will say. For people like me that don't focus on super epic performance stuff, definitely still on sprue is better. It's just easier to work with. And this is just a sanding sponge that I use for Gunpla. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to use these than it is that sanding stick. On the round areas especially. Perfect. Yeah, I was watching a lot. I was watching another battle report yesterday. I was thinking about Warhammer Fantasy and the state of. Grab our reference art. Wow, it's pretty much everywhere. Just the same shade of green. So we're painting it like the box art tonight. So we're going to go ahead and go with that. Not a lot of variation or color, but we'll push it a little bit at the end here. And with this paint, if you don't have a wet palette, I would recommend making sure to definitely use some thinning medium, or if you don't have that, some water. If you're looking to get something that isn't just a paint, I would highly recommend thinning medium. For the first like 10 years or so that I've done this hobby, or not 10 years, how long have I been painting miniatures? Well, up until very, very recently, I've not been doing this for 10 years. I think I've had this stuff for close to 10 years, but I definitely threw it in a box when I started living with my wife, and we were moving around and stuff for like at least 5 years. And I just started getting back into the hobby maybe about a year and a half ago. But I would highly recommend trying out thinning medium if you're really looking just for something to change up your game a little bit, or that isn't just another paint. Try it out, see if you like it. From everything I've seen online, I see a lot of mixed reviews. I'm a person that's actually starting to genuinely like using thinning medium as opposed to just water. But since I have the wet palette here, and these two paints are just a little bit thinner, I can get away with just putting them on the wet palette, and I just put new water in this wet palette, so it's it's got a lot of moisture in there, so you can see the paint's going on there very, very thin, which is perfect. That's exactly what we wanted to do today. I like just using like a nice medium base brush, something like this. Yeah, I'm going back to the palette a lot, but I could probably do it less. I'm usually a little bit impatient when it comes to base coats. So who's the other character you got for me, buddy? Actually, now I'm thinking about it. Oh, he's gotta go check. He comes back and it's like an insane order model, like the Storm Drake. Because this is I say commission, but this is just me painting models for a buddy. So that's why it's been hanging. It's like him and I have been I've been working on it for him for almost since pre-COVID. And I kind of got a little bit distracted. Oh yeah, I had a friend living with me for about a year or so, maybe a little bit less. And so I didn't have access to like my painting area, so it didn't get done. And then COVID happened, so it just kind of like kept getting put on the back burner. And then I launched Good Enough Painting, and I took on a little bit too much at first, trying to help too many people at way too cheap of a price. And I got a little bit overwhelmed, so then I cut back and I kept it to local orders for a while. But now I think I found a good happy medium. I got a little bit better at valuing my time, something so important. I was that person that was willing to do things for free for quote exposure. And I don't mean exposure on like big sites or companies or something. Like a guy's doing a weekly D&D podcast, and he wanted some models, and I was like, I'll paint you 50 models, just give me the exposure. And that's not any good way to do stuff. You have to value your time a little bit. I don't mind spending my time and for the benefit of others, but if they're not going to value your time, you have to remember what it's worth. Like, I'll give somebody 30 hours of my time just to help them out a little bit, or for free, no problem. But when we approach that 50 or 100 hour mark, you gotta start to think, are you being really generous, or are you doing yourself a small disservice? You gotta be careful. Making sure to get all the little nooks and crannies. I really like that color. Brewmaster General Jacob Bugmonson the 11th. Oh my god, I gotta look this up. Okay, wait. Brewmaster General. Who is Jacob? Oh, Bugmason the 11th. Oh yeah, he's a What's that faction called? Oh shit. You got one of these limited models. Okay, so he was a limited edition release by Games Workshop. Oh, that's so cool, man. I'm so excited to paint that for you. Oh my god. It's gonna be close to like one of the most expensive models I've ever painted. No, maybe not quite, but that's so cool. What faction is he? What is the name of that faction? Help me out, man. Cadre Overlords? Yeah, Cadre Overlords, is it? Yeah. Dude, I'm excited to paint that for you. That's gonna be awesome. Okay. So there we go. We got his scales and stuff pretty much all done. Just gonna touch it up a little bit. And as you can see, we don't really have a nice even coat. I made sure that the paint was really thin throughout the whole process, making sure to keep a really damp brush as I was going back to my palette. And so this is an example of when like a zenithal highlight would start to show through, but even without it, like you don't have to gate yourself like that. You don't have to have one to start to get these really almost natural looking variations and stuff in skin tone, or in this case, chitinous armor. And what we're going to do is next, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get some detail in. We're going to paint his gums a little bit, and then his tongue, and we're going to leave the teeth to the end, because there's no way we're going to paint all these teeth, get them perfect, and then not mess them up immediately. So we're going to do those last. And for the teeth, for the gum line, I want a nice pink. So I'm going to go to Sturge Tan. This is part of the beginner paint, one of the Nolzur's Marvelous Miniatures beginner paint sets. I don't remember. I'm going to look this up in case people want to buy this paint. D&D. War Paint, Sturge Tan. Okay, it looks like it is sold. Let me see here. They did start selling them individually, but it looks like it's sold out. So these Underdark paint sets and things were specific custom colors that they used, that they released with the models. So it looks like on the... Okay, well that's just a reseller. I want Army Painter, so please. Okay. Looks like this was part of the... Which box set? Yeah, this was part of the Monster box set? Yeah. You can get it in the Monsters one, or you can get it in the Underdark one, I believe. Yeah, the Underdark paint set that has the Dristawarden model. And they're so $25. You get a really good starter set of paints. I don't actually have it set up so I can show you guys my screen, but when I do things like this, I probably should. But it's a Dungeons and Dragons unique. They partnered up with the Army Painter, D&D did, to make some really cool paints that were D&D themed and worked really well in there. So if you want this particular color, I would go there. Otherwise, if you poke around a little bit online, you can probably find a good mixture that's basically the same. I'm not good at mixing up paint, or like, yeah, I'm not super good at mixing up paints and like getting them to match. Oh wow, that's just an exposed X-Acto knife on my desk. We're just gonna go ahead and put that over there. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. And it looks like it's been a little bit since I used this, so we might need to poke it through. So, because I am focusing this on beginners, tonight especially, we are going to make sure that we talk about everything that we do. So what I'm doing here is I'm just grabbing a paper clip and I'm just poking a little bit of a hole in there, like that. And the reason I'm doing that is because your first tendency is to just squeeze and then squeeze a little bit harder. And if you do that, one of two things is going to happen. One, the whole lid's going to come off and just ruin your night, or a lot of paint's going to come off very quickly. And just so when you get that little bit of resistance there, don't push. Yeah, so the whole lid, this thing right here has a lid on it. Let's see if I can get this in focus. You can see this? That whole top comes off. So you can put like an agitator inside the paint, and that whole thing will pop off if you squeeze, because your paint's clogged at the tip. So we're grabbing a nice fine tip detail brush, and then what I like to do is I like to get a little bit of paint on the tip of the brush, and then you can see right there it beads up a little bit, and then I like to just wipe away a little bit of that excess bead, so then I have a more accurate representation of what. Look at my paintbrush. Oh well. And then this is a pretty opaque color, like a lot of the beginner paint sets, so it should cover up our really thin green very well. If we can try and avoid it, we're going to try and avoid the teeth a little bit. But if we hit them, it's no big worry. This may look like really precise work, but it's really not. Just as long as you keep your hand here and you're holding your model and it's just all braced up to it, up against your own hand, this requires no more control than dotting the I or crossing the T when you're writing something. The standard like college rule notebook. Some of the stuff we do as miniature painters requires incredible precision, but something like this, it's kind of just like doing a color book. Looking at this again. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and also paint the inside of the mouth. But for that inside of the mouth, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab, I'm just going to add a little bit of darker red into that mixture for the inside of the mouth. Oh, I just see a little spot that we missed on our original base coat. No big deal. That spot is right here. Right there, it's not as important since I have it on the brush. Just gonna go back through. Oh yeah, it looks like we missed the back section here. So what's really cool about the Beholder model that Nulzer sells is that it has the eye slits cut in, so you can get a really cool depth look on them. But on this one, it does not. So we're gonna have to try and freehand a good looking eye on here, which is not something I am particularly good at. But we will try and do our best. I've never really done freehand work that I'm happy with. I think very few people have, frankly, because you don't find anyone that does, at least in my experience, usually the people that do freehand work that you get to see, it's after many hours and hours and hours of practice and work and touch-ups, but we're going to try and do some stuff live. But freehanding an eye shouldn't be too bad. And we're going to have to do it 5 times. But the Beholder model has like the eyes, they get cut in at like an angle and stuff. Like I said, for the back of the mouth, we're going to go ahead and add just a little bit of Dragonfire Red, just to get it a little bit darker. Go ahead and mix these two together. There we go. It's a little bit thin, but we'll try it. Yeah, it's fine. Going straight for the Dragonfire Red here. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go straight for the Dragonfire Red for the rest of this. Looks like we were able to keep our teeth relatively clean. Good deal. Alright, for the tongue, we want to go a little bit brighter on the tongue. This is one of the features of the model. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a little bit of, there we go. We're going to add a little bit of bright purple into our pink mixture for our tongue. Just normal purple. Oh, dang it. My purple hasn't been used in ages, and this is kind of why. It's so thin and weird. It's one of those mecha air colors. Or one of those mecha colors. And whatever they did with the consistency of it just turns it into soup. Almost immediately. So they're designed to be used for Gunpla modelers. So I think that they're, for the most part, designed to be either already thinned down to be used in an airbrush, or very, very thin so that they can be used in an airbrush. Mecha color. Yeah, and they have that satin finish, but that's okay. That's about the color I wanted. Okay. A nice purplish color. Purplish pink, whatever you want to call this. That's going to go on our tongue. Oh, found another spot that we missed with the green. You'll find that often when you're miniature painting, as you start to move things at all the crazy angles. You'll just keep finding these spots. It's so hard, and you can drive yourself crazy trying to make sure you don't miss any spot. But and then also sometimes paint pools and settles away, so you're not going crazy. Okay, cool. Looking good. So, here we have the Spectator so far. I think if I turn this light off, that'll help. Don't turn it up. Turn it off. Yeah, there we go. So we're getting there. We are getting there. It's coming along very nicely. And you can see how easy that was. All we did was just add a couple of colors. Made sure our paint was nice and thin. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the eyes next. And for these eyes, they have them very jaundiced. So what I'm going to do is I am going to start with a very, very thin coat of this skeletal bone here. By Army Painter. Yeah, I was just using this earlier today, actually. So it's just wanting to be a little bit uncooperative. So acrylic paint tends to seal on its topmost layer, and but if you just add like a little bit of water to it, and you get through that top layer, under there is actually all of your still wet paint. So no worries. You don't want to go stabbing your brush into it though to try and like burst that little bubble though. That's the last thing you want to do. But here we go. We have a very thin skeletal horde mixture. You can see how transparent that is here on the palette. I hope. Yeah, you can barely see that. And we're going to use that, and we're going to go ahead and paint these eyes. Now the last thing we're going to do on this model is freehand the eye itself, so we're just trying to make sure we get a base coat down here. If you get a little bit on the surrounding areas, don't worry about it. During the next couple of steps, we will be doing some tidying up. Obviously, don't go crazy with it, but we're just trying to establish a little bit of that jaundice look. And this is also, because this skeletal horde has a little bit of yellow in it, definitely a yellowish hint to it, and that's kind of why I wanted to add the yellow into the base coat for the rest of the model, kind of trying to bring it all together. With the mouth and stuff, I really wanted to not blend in, because that's what I want the one of the big attention, besides the giant eye on your face, I wanted it to be the attention. Hydrate? You want me to hydrate now? Yeah, I can do that. Got some Earl Grey tonight. No, I have the Oolong Black Dragon tea tonight. That's very good tea. Oh, this next Tuesday, we're going to be working on Count Dooku from Star Wars Legion. I got to get that guy done and off and in the mail, so we're going to be working on him next. Because the Lord of the Rings job is donezo, just about. I have to do a couple more of the characters tonight, after tonight's stream, so I'll be doing that, but you guys won't get to see those models anymore. They've been hanging around with us for a couple weeks. They're gone. They're going away. The Balrog and all of his buddies. And Gandalf. Just going back with the green. And yeah, there it is. I missed a spot. Okay. There are all of our base coats. Now this is so I'd say one of 3 stops. If you wanted to just paint something for your normal Dungeons and Dragons game, this is a great place to call it a day. I mean, obviously put the eye in, but this looks really good because we use nice thin paints. We got a nice good variation of color on the model itself, in the on the skin and such. This is something that, you know, a couple years ago I would have been very proud to have painted. Focus on my model. There it is. 100%. Looks good. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring it up to a little bit more of what people that play war games and stuff would call a more tabletop standard, or battle ready or something, I think it is. One of the two. Where we've added a little bit more depth and contrast to the model. Still be proud. Yes, I would still definitely be proud, especially for D&D games. Especially if you're a dungeon master and you're painting models for your Dungeons and Dragons campaign, and you pull this out and you've painted it yourself. for like one-off encounters, like, yes, this is an amazing job. Good on you. Basically what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and add some washes to this model. So there's some pretty standard washes that you can use. Things like the Army Painter and Games Workshop both sell pretty universal ones. Those would be, some good examples of those would be these right here. Some like Agrax Earthshade, Nuln Oil, or if Army Painter, they have their strong and dark tones. Those are basically the equivalent of the Nuln Oil and Agrax Earthshade. They're just a little bit thicker, but you can water them down. They even sell containers that you can dip your models into these and call it a day. And then you have other washes too by a lot of companies that have like colors to them. So here's a sepia wash by WizKids. They partnered with Vallejo for some of their paints as well. So when you're looking at washes, you have to think about what you want to do. If you just want to add generic shadows and bring out details, your best bet is to go with one of the ones like this. I've never really used Agrax Earthshade or Nuln Oil on miniatures. I tend to use these because I like the control that having them being really thick or really thin gives me. So I don't have as much of experience with the other ones. Like, don't get me wrong, I've spilled plenty of pots of them, but I kind of stopped using them when I found this. If you are a Citadel junkie and you like Nuln Oil, I'd recommend giving this paint a try. It's a Basilicalum Gray. It's a contrast paint that works very similarly, but you don't get as much of the gloss finish that you get with the others, with the Nuln Oil. So, oh wow, I'm almost out of this bottle. Good thing I have a backup bottle. So this dark tone is going to add just a little bit of depth to some of the areas, and I'm going to use this dark tone primarily on the mouth, because on the rest of the model, we're going to go ahead and we're going to give it a glaze, which is like a wash, except a little bit different. And you'll see what I mean in a minute. But for now, one step at a time, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add this dark tone to our model, or the mouth of our model. So just put a little bit in there and grab just like a little bit of water. Here, I just dip my brush in there and I get like a drop or two. And then I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna go back to this brush. I kind of tend to like to use bigger brushes. It helps a little bit more with the wash to help it flow around, and you don't need to be as precise with washes. Something in my eye. We're good. And then with a wet brush, plus the couple little drops of water we put in there, and like 2 or 3 drops of the dark tone, we're just gonna mix this up. And you'll notice immediately with the dark tone, it is a thick substance. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna wipe away that excess. No need to wash it off our brush. We don't want to waste all of it, but we are going to wash our brush so we don't ruin our brush. Then we're going to grab a little bit on the tip of our brush here. And then here's our mouth, just like this. And we're just going to go ahead and apply it. And a little bit of a thicker coat than that. Okay. Like so. Usually it's best to go against the grain of whatever you're painting. So in this case, the teeth are going up and down. So I want to kind of paint across the teeth, almost like we're brushing the teeth, so that the wash has the ability to catch on each of these little ridges and seep into the grooves of the paint of the model. And you can see immediately all of the detail that you weren't really able to notice before in that mouth starting to come out. We'll go ahead and we'll get his tongue too. And don't worry if it looks a little dark. When this stuff dries, it won't be quite as black here. It will dry and it will look the way you'll see here. Just hang around for a little bit here in the video and you'll see what this looks like. It does dry dark, but it doesn't. It does kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It kind of shrinks almost. So the footprint you see now and all of this and the thickness of it, it doesn't actually stay like that. As it dries, it'll settle in and just add depth to those areas. There we go. There's our wash applied to the mouth. And now you can actually see all those individual teeth and stuff a lot better. If we get even closer, if we can see as it's settled into the gums and such, all of those little details that we didn't have before. So there we go. That's kind of all we're looking for. And now we're going to do a very similar thing to the rest of the model, but I would like to try and do it with a color that kind of matches the model a little bit better. So you can, of course, 100% go just with the dark tone, and we'll do that a little bit here in the back, just like this, and just go in all over the model and apply the dark tone, which I think I'm going to actually do on the, I'll do that on the limbs here. That'll be a good middle balance without painting the model two different ways, I think. So you guys can get a look at what that looks like. Because the limbs are also kind of the perfect time to use the dark tone. You see this right here? We have a little bit too much pooling up there. We need to be able to see the model underneath. So we want to make sure that we can still see the model, so we don't want it to pool up too much, especially when you're doing these bigger areas. You have to worry about it collecting on those flat surfaces. Otherwise you get you can definitely tell that it's just been washed and it just dries into pools. It's the only way to really describe it. It's really, it doesn't dry right. There we go, just a nice big coat of the dark wash, of the dark tone, sorry. Going when possible against the grain of the model. And here we go. Just moving along. Up there, and then down there. And you, sir, are going to guard my treasure for 101 years. So I need you to look your best. Otherwise, I can't have... I want people to want my treasure. I don't want them to get it, but I want them to want it. Because such an amazing beast of a creature was guarding it. After you do this to a couple of models, you definitely start to get the hang of it. I would highly recommend just, if you really want to try out miniature painting, and you've gotten to the point where you can kind of color in the lines pretty well, this is a very, very good next step. You don't have to worry about all those crazy techniques, all kinds of crazy things, messing with lighting and blends and such. Something as simple as this will really add a lot of depth to your model. So now that we've applied it pretty much everywhere, we're going to go back again. We're just going to make sure that we don't have any of those giant pools. And with a much more dry brush, if we find them, we're just going to kind of soak them up or scoot them around a little bit with our brush. I think we wanted to do this area too. Yeah. Oh, so there. I'm going to pretend like I did that on purpose. Right there, behind there, you can see how much is pooling up down there. I'm just going to grab my brush that I just wiped off and just gently bring it across. Not too fast, not too slow. Just going to get a little bit out of there. Right there, I got a little bit too much. Soak it up with the brush and then clean off the brush and then dry the brush. Here, a little bit too much. Go ahead and soak that up. Here, that's a little much. There we go. And now we're starting to get a little bit of a beast of a monster. It's looking good, it's looking good. And you can see just how much that adds to it. If I bring it up closer here. You can see the difference in the colors. Now, again, remember it's got to dry. So you can actually see the mouth is starting to dry a little bit. And how much less it just looks like blacky inkness. So yeah, when it dries, it's not going to be quite as in your face, like a comic book style. Let's see here. There we go. Okay, now next we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a little bit of a more green tone for the rest of our model. So for this one's a little bit more subjective. You want something that's going to be a little bit darker than your model, but not something that's just going to stain your whole model another color. So it's best to start a little bit lighter with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with this shade called Athonian Camo Shade. And this is going to act almost like a glaze just over the model, and it's going to, again, seep into those recesses and bring out the details, but on the rest of the model. And I think this might be a little bit, let me just make sure. No, I think this is going to be the perfect color for what we need. And if you're washing your model and you're following along and it's starting to look a little bit dark, don't worry. We're going to fix that here in just a minute. There we go. We're going to fix it in just a minute. So with this is a good intermediary, so you don't have to mix your own shaders or glazes. Games Workshop sells a lot of these. And they kind of work a little bit like contrast paints, but they're not quite as... It's kind of like from a time before they had the contrast paint line. So it's a little bit more important to make sure we're going against the grain here for these. You can see here, we're just going to go ahead and use this shader all over the rest of our guy. It's going to do the same thing by seeping into all these little cracks and crevices. It's going to be a little bit more, it's definitely a little thinner than the dark tone, but that's kind of perfect because this detail is a little bit more precise anyway. And if we were doing detail this much, we would have needed to thin down the dark tone a little bit more. But here we go. You can see how fast this is, just going on there. Trying to make sure that we're covering all of the model. Keep wanting to go back to that dark tone. And again, same as with the dark tone, you can apply this pretty thickly. You don't need to stress too much about it. And there we go. And now you can see we definitely have a difference in color between the two, which I feel like the box art was lacking a little bit. There is ours. Let's go ahead and turn that off. There's our model. It looks very glossy right now, but it's going to, when it dries, it'll be a little bit less glossy. But what you will want to do especially with the dark tone areas, those will be a little bit shiny. When you finish your model, you're going to want to spray it with a matte varnish to, one, protect your paint job, and two, you want to, it'll kind of help tone that down a little bit. You can get just like one of the Rust-Oleum matte varnish sprays, or you can get matte varnish in by, let's see, do I have one? No. A lot of companies sell them individually. Or you can get matte medium from Michaels, but a lot of companies sell like matte medium or something in a bottle like this. If you go to a store, Vallejo has a lot of different kinds of medium, and it'll look exactly like this, but it'll say matte medium. And you can use that and brush on if you don't want to use an aerosol, or you don't have an airbrush to spit it through. You can use something like this. Do I have one right here? I don't. I thought I did. But there we go. Just so now this all needs to dry because we can't do the next step that I want to do in this beginning series until all of that dries. So this needs to sit aside for a little bit, and we will we'll move on from there. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean up our little ink wells here. Ooh. Like so. Throw away that paper towel. And we're just going to kind of clean up our area a little bit as we get started for the next thing. And we'll come back to this guy here in a little bit. He just needs to dry, and this is the kind of the time where I would go and like watch something on TV or dick around on my phone for, you know, an hour and a half or so. But I am live painting, so we're just gonna go ahead and move on to the next thing because we got some other stuff we want to get done today. Unless you guys want to watch me play a game on my phone for about an hour, in which case I'll do that. Okay, go ahead and clean up our paints as well. Get rid of that green. And that is the desert yellow. Get rid of that too. And this again, I don't remember if I mentioned the name. This is a Athonian Camo Shade by Games Workshop or Citadel Paints, either one. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put these little brush protectors back on here, because the next thing I'm going to be doing involves my airbrush. I don't want to use these nice ones while I'm mixing my paint. Go ahead and use this one. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding the zenithal highlight to the a large adult green dragon. This guy. Yes, this guy. So we're going to be adding the all of the areas and lights and such for this model. And actually, I need that thing you were standing on, sir. Ah, there we go. Just a little spinny tray to make them a little bit easier. It's a little unwieldy otherwise. So what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be setting up the airbrush here, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to secure him a little bit to the to this base, and then I'm going to start adding some areas where we can get some color going on him. Because right now he is solid black, and don't get me wrong, I love painting things from solid black, but I like the little bit of transparency and grays and whites that you get when you go at it with a little bit of, I've actually started using a white primer a lot more so than a white acrylic ink. I don't know why I started doing it differently. I just kind of did one day because I wanted it to dry faster, and I've honestly been liking this a little bit more. I feel like I can get a nice better layer, and with the acrylic ink you have to wait so long before you can really ever take a brush to it. But with something like this, you can really start to get layer after layer after layer on there, even with an airbrush, and then going at it with a brush isn't as big of a deal. So I really have started enjoying using the surface primer instead of something like this. Now if I'm doing a bunch of models, I'll do this and then they have time to dry, but when I'm just doing one, I usually find it best just to use something a little bit thicker. Okay. Well, that fell on the ground. That's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take 5. We're about an hour and a half in, and we're about a third of the way through the night. So right on schedule. I'm going to leave you guys with a quick ad break so that you guys that aren't subs don't get an ad here in a little bit. And I will see you then. Oh, I have a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, no. No. I said 5 minutes, didn't I? Did I say 5 seconds? I think I said 5 minutes. And break. Alright everybody, sorry about the wait. I am back. I decided to make myself some tea. Alright, so I'm going to mix up a little bit of the primer in this little cup, but before that, I'm going to use some poster tack, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of get him a little bit more secured to this base. Just so he doesn't go spinning off, falling off. You got to get painted, mister. We got to paint you. We're going to celebrate 100 subscribers on YouTube with you. Squish. And squish. There we go. There we go. We're also going to zoom this out a little bit because this is a real big model. There we go. Keep saying there we go. Make sure our lights are turned up here. There we go. Yay. All right. So we're going to just add some areas of highlight and just a little bit of a brighter area, and just to make it a little bit easier to paint. Because you can use translucent paints over a zenithal highlight too, and a zenithal being the white on black, to get the grayscale effect on models, as if it's simulating light sources hitting it. You can use that along with transparent paints like Citadel contrast paints, Army Painter quick shade washes, anything thrown through an airbrush aerosolizes and makes translucent colors. Or if you're like me, you might use some of those techniques, but also it's just nice to have a good reference of where things are lighter and where things are darker, because you forget as you start to really muck around with the model. So go ahead and set that to the side, and we're going to go ahead and mix our paint first. Now I have the bigger like 0.5 millimeter airbrush out today, so you could, I think, potentially just spray this directly through an airbrush, but I'm still going to thin it down a lot just because I like that a little bit more. Give me 1 second, please. Oh. Okay. So what I like to do, we're just going to go ahead and add some primer, like so. Definitely more than we need, but I'd rather have a little bit more than a little bit less and have to mix it up. I absolutely, really fucking hate that. When I need more of a primer or something, and I don't have it. Oh wow. And there's a dry brush that I really need to clean. Oh geez. I just saw this out of the corner of my eye. Even your dry brush need to be washed in between uses, guys. Oh my goodness. Do you see this? These giant chunks. That might be a lost cause. I'll try and clean it off tonight or someday soon here. Oh wow. That's really attached. Oof. Oh well. And then a little bit of airbrush medium or airbrush thinner, what have you. And then just about 1:1. And then using a larger brush, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to mix this up. Get the brush a little bit damp too. A little bit more liquid in there isn't going to hurt anybody. And then we're going to really make sure to mix this up. Because primers, especially when you're throwing them through an airbrush, they really have a tendency to sputter and splatter and all of that. So we really want to make sure that we get this nice and mixed together. And we want about that consistency. Maybe a little bit thinner. You could probably go a little bit thinner if you wanted, but we want to be able to drag it up the side of the cup and see it fall back down relatively quickly. Kind of overcome these little ledges. And we'll go ahead, bring our airbrush over, and it's turned on. We have our PSI at about somewhere between 30 to 35. It's kind of preference. You can turn it up, you can turn it down. And there we go, just about perfect. And then I don't like to reuse cups for this. I need to get paper cups. When I went to the store last, they didn't have any paper cups, and it was a little bit upset, but next time I go, I'll get some paper cups so I can recycle them. But just off to the side here, we're gonna make sure that we aren't getting any sticking in our airbrush, which it appears that we are. No big deal. And we're just gonna make sure that we get paint to come out. And that when we don't have air going, we don't have the needle push forward, we shouldn't have paint coming out. It appears we have just a tiniest amount, but it could just be what's left over. So we're just gonna tally on, folks. And just from above, we're just gonna slowly start to build colors up. Just kind of adding somewhere for our paint to go, because we're going to work a little bit more with the highlights and the shadows as we're painting the model itself. So this is just kind of just adding in a little bit of the foundations. Especially with these wings to really pop. So I'm going to make them really, really light. Turn them around. And when I do a prime like this, I tend to hit a lot more of the model than a lot of people do. And that's because I'm not trying to use it in lieu of hand painting in highlights and shadows. I just use it as kind of like a little bit of a gradient. And to help me see all the details. Ah, he's starting to move. Kind of like where I want the eye to go. So think about this process as kind of, if you're familiar with the process of comic book creation, this is kind of the final line stage. And then the inking, and then we'll add the actual colors in next. Definitely want the tips of the wings to be brighter. I think I'll add the highlights into the actual wings themselves manually as we go. And the ridges here. I want this side of the dragon, the right from, if you're looking directly at him, to be a little bit darker than the left, because he's kind of hiding in the wings there. You can see there I've overpainted a little bit, so it's starting to pool a little bit, so no worries, we can't. Last thing you want to do is accidentally try and fix it and ruin it, so we're just going to try and avoid painting anything there for a little bit. And there we go. Definitely want these claws to be white and the tip of his tail. And if you have issues with paint pooling up, just go ahead and pull yourself back a little bit. Maybe ease off the trigger a little bit. Or spray a little bit more paint so you don't feel the need to continually pass over an area back a bunch of times. I've noticed that. But as you can see here, we're starting to get a nice white on a lot of sections. And unfortunately, given the way that I mounted him, you aren't really able to see a lot of the dark sections right now. He's on there. But you can see underneath him here, we're really starting to get a good variation in color. I just want a little bit in there, just like a little tiny pass, so that I can get the nice pale color of his underbelly and skin, and wing membrane done. There we go. Done and dusted. Awesome. And now we're going to clean our airbrush for almost the same amount of time that we just used it. Isn't that fun? But I was able to successfully use the airbrush on stream, guys. Like, I'm so pumped. I've had so many issues with this airbrush on stream. Not this particular airbrush, but just airbrushes in general. I'm really glad that I went ahead and got this Badger. Because I got a starter kit off Amazon that had just like some cheap Iwata things in it. I think it was Medea airbrushes. What's this brand? Master airbrushes. I would absolutely recommend anybody get those. This is the one that comes with the compressor. I opted to get a compressor that didn't have a tank because I wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy using this. But yeah. I got this and I absolutely loved it, but I was having a lot of trouble with like clogs and maintenance and things like that. So I went ahead and I got a better airbrush with like this Badger here. Just kind of like still a low tier airbrush, thinking, or like maybe mid, I don't know. Depends on how you think about money and all that. But yeah, so I got that and it's made a world of difference, honestly. It's made it all a lot easier. Don't fall, please. I'm checking out our beholder, or not our beholder, our spectator. He's almost ready. So, yeah, this was just part of just something that I wanted to do in between this night session, because I definitely want to continue to paint this guy live on stream, but it's a very, very large model, and it's going to be a lot of painting. So, I don't want to make a 6-hour mega stream where we do all of it all at one time, because that just sounds exhausting to me. What I like to do is I like to pour a little bit of airbrush thinner in there, airbrush cleaner, sorry, and I'm going to back channel it, which is I use a paper towel, and then because this has an exposed needle on the end, I make sure that I'm using a sponge. And this is again just one of those super cheap sanding sponges, and the paper towel is just kind of there in case it pokes through. And I'm covering up the hole, and I am just allowing the airbrush to go backwards a little bit, I guess, if you will. And then we're going to just go ahead and we're going to spray all of that out of our airbrush, moving our trigger just back and forth, a little bit farther than you did when you were using it. So nowhere in that process did I pull it all the way back, but here just a couple of times I'm going to make sure that I'm going back and forth. And I can tell that a little bit of paint is caught in there because when I pull it all the way back and I put it forward, there's a slight hiccup in it coming forward. And so as I'm moving it, I'm paying attention to this lever down here that actually pulls the airbrush back. And if it's a little bit loose, or if I can take my needle and I can push it in a little bit, it means I have a little bit of paint in there. So I'm going to need to take this apart and really clean that needle, I think. But for now, this is fine. I'm not making it worse with this. And I like to do this because I have so many problems with airbrushes, I do this twice. Or when I'm alone, probably do it more than twice. But just a couple full cups worth. Just really making sure to work that needle back and forth. But you can see right here, I'm not actually moving my needle right now as I move this trigger. So you really have to be careful. Raid, 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 incoming. What does that mean? Are you incoming? Just moving my needle, making sure to try and break up as much of that paint as possible. So when I disassemble this later, it's not super clogged on there. And then we're going to take a look at our actual needle itself. And yep, there's got a little bit on there. So Q-tip. Just a little bit more cleaner. And we're going to clean this off. Like, ta-da! And look at that. We have a nice clean airbrush tip. Just about. Not really. Okay, cool. So we're going to have to fully disassemble it, but I'm not going to do that live on stream. We're going to do that some other time. Oh! The Jade Roses. Rating with a party of 5. Oh, geez. How are you guys doing? It's the Wabbajack. Everyone having a good time? What were we doing over there on the Jade Roses channel? And thank you very much for the follow. It's the Wabbajack. So funny you say it's the Wabbajack because I've been doing a replay of Skyrim. And it's been a lot of fun. I tried mods for the first time. It's been a blast. I'm doing pretty good tonight. Doing pretty good. We're doing a real beginner tutorial for miniature painting. And I was actually, so this isn't the beginner tutorial. I don't recommend beginning with a giant dragon. We're doing this guy, and this is just as a celebratory thing. I decided to buy a bigger model for the YouTube channel. So we're just working on that a little bit while some stuff on here dried. Until Dawn for the first time. I've heard of that game. I've never played it. I think that's a zombie game. Yes, I do believe it is a zombie game. Jade Raid. Well, thank you so very much. I appreciate it. I really do. That means a lot for you guys to come join and do some super nerdy stuff with us here on Good Enough Painting. Just kind of sharing some nonsense. Getting some new fresh water here. And now that we're doing something small again, we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring the camera down. There we go. And we'll dump out some of this more. Get a little bit more here. Chickabow! And this is a monster from Dungeons and Dragons. Here on every Friday, I am working through painting every entry in the monster manual. And tonight we are painting, by request, the Spectator, which is not a beholder. It is a beholder-like creature, I guess, that you can summon to guard your treasure. So what we did earlier was we laid down a base coat. We did a thorough, in-depth analysis of what washes are in a couple of different kinds. And now we're going to go back through and we're going to go do a little bit of dry brushing and some fine detail highlighting. So kind of just wrapping up this model, doing all the more precise stuff, getting more complicated as we go. Abil, thank you so very much for the follow. I really appreciate it. I look forward to hanging out with you and painting some stuff. So dry brush first. Let's go ahead and we're going to get, if you guys remember earlier, we mixed a 50-50 mixture of the desert yellow with army green. So we're going to go back to that because once we've applied a shade or one of those darker washes to a model, we've taken the tonality of the miniature as a whole and we've kind of brought it back down. And what we're going to do is, in order to make the raised areas look higher and brighter and the dark areas stay as dark as they are, I think we talk about this a lot on the channel. We're just everything about miniature painting is making your brights brighter and your darks darker and keeping them as, you know, vibrant as you can. We're just going to continue on with that, and we're going to grab a dry brush and the Jade Roses. Thank you so very much for your follow as well. Uh-oh, I'm going to have to buy another Colossal Dragon here. I'm still waiting on the first one to get here in the mail, guys. You thought that dragon was big? The other one's going to be twice as big. Every 50 followers. If you guys want to vote, go ahead, hop down to the bottom. You can throw in your vote for which color you want. Don't vote for red. I think I tried to fix it. Red should not be there. If it is there and you voted for red, your vote is thrown out because I'm already doing the red and the blue. So we're going to grab a dry brush. Actually, we're going to get a new dry brush here. And these are just super cheap makeup brushes because miniature painting dry brushes are expensive, but shitty makeup brushes are very cheap and they do the same thing. All right, so we're gonna mix up a little bit of this. I want it to be a little bit lighter. Come on, green team. Actually, I'm kind of liking all that. Actually, everybody's got green. Oh, I get it. The Jade Roses, Jade Raid, green team. I'm actually kind of digging that. Actually, do we want to do something a little bit different? I think we do. We're going to go ahead and we're going to use this Hellion green instead. I'm going to give him a more spooky appearance. So what's cool about dry paints as opposed to, we talk a lot about the actual like chemical makeup of paints. This is designed to be very, very thin and flow into details and skim over the highlights. Whereas these paints are designed to be very, very thick. Think almost like oil paints, except they're not a son of a bitch to use. And we're going to go ahead and pop the top off this. And when we look at it inside, we can tell that it's fucking in there. It's not coming out. We're going to need to get it out. It's very, very thick. And what we're going to do with it is we're going to go into, this paint has the thickness, and we are good. We're going to grab a little bit on the end of our brush. And we're just going to smush it around on the top, or if you're using like a different kind of dry paint, you can do what I have a nasty habit of doing, and that's just spread it like literally anywhere. On your hand, on your brush, on your cat. Don't put this on your cat. And just go ahead and we're going to work it all the way into the bristles. So you can see that it was white, and now it's nice and Hellion greeny. And what we're going to do is we're going to be flicking it back and forth over the details. Let me see if I can find a spot where I haven't demonstrated this before. Okay, like here. We're just going to flick it back and forth over the details until we start to get that little, just going to catch all those edges. Kind of like when you skim your hand over something. We're kind of doing that. So with that all worked in there, we're just going to go to town on this guy. And we're going to try and make sure we're doing this from the top to simulate a light hitting it from above. Like this. And there we go. And this is, again, one of the super easy beginner techniques that you can really use to make your guy just look so good. This is a pretty heavy dry brush. If you wanted to go lighter on this, you totally could. Poor Neo would be so grumpy. Yeah, Pepper, who is... I need to stop doing these streams during her nap time. Hates it when she accidentally gets paint on her, which has happened twice. And both times, definitely my fault, but I'm going to say it's the cat's fault. Because the cat doesn't speak English very well. Cats do not like paint on them. And there we go. Now this is a little bit of a heavy dry brush, don't get me wrong. I know that, but I really like heavy dry brushes. They always look super fun. And there we go. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to turn off this light because, of course, focusing on my camera is just absolutely the worst. And we're going to go ahead and give it a nice little backdrop, and we're going to give this a good look. And there we go. there's our model. We still have to freehand in these eyes and add some veins and do a little bit of doodahs. We gotta do all these eyes. Oh, not looking forward to this, but I think I might have a cheat code. We're gonna try it. And the cheat code is gonna be, we're not gonna use paint to stencil them, and we're gonna use a Gundam marker, which is basically just a paint marker. He is the god, Emperor Neo. We need to be better servants so he won't be grumpy. Yes. Where did my box art go? Oh no, okay. Okay, so my eye is not going to look that good. And you guys have seen me do some really, I would like to say, pretty good stuff on the channel. I can't make an eye look that good, so we're just going to do our best here. Jeez. Okay. So this is the part where we decide what we are and are not capable of doing, and we make sure that we stay in our lane while still trying our best. Okay. So grabbing our pen, and again, we can touch this up with our off-white. We're just going to draw a dot about in the middle, and then a dot to each side of that, and then a dot above, and a dot below. And then we're just going to kind of connect the dots. And extend however we need, and then kind of round out our edges like that. And then we're just going to do that on all these. So this time I'm going to actually find the middle here. Oh, we'll turn the light back on for y'all. I like using the fine tip Gundam markers because, yeah, we could go with the brush and some black ink and really make these really, really precise, but this is not something I am stellar at. Between super shaky hands, a little bit of arthritis, and just not being super crazy good at this. I like to use markers and stuff for this. It counts as a paint marker, right? Alright, here we go. Boom. 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 And we're just going to fill it in here. There we go. And we got our eyes in there. Oh, yes. As long as Jada Rabbit thinks it counts, I'm good. Okay, so for this, it looks like they went all out. I mean, like, there's absolutely nothing on this eye in the model, and in this art, they have, like, ancient hieroglyphics written in the eye, veins, all this other stuff. Okay. So we're going to do... Jeez, guys. That's it. Done. No, I'm kidding. Same thing, just a little bit larger. Dot in the center. One to the left, to the right. About double the distance. Double the distance. And that should give us a nice little iris. And this is pretty much identical to what I would be doing with the brush, except we wouldn't have to constantly worry about the consistency of the paint and all of that. There we go. Alrighty. I think that marker may have seen better days. And I don't have another one, so we're gonna actually... I lied, everybody. You're gonna get to see me do the thing. Okay, so I don't have another Gundam marker, and that one is finally, I think, on its last leg. So we're gonna grab some carbon black acrylic ink, and we're gonna go doop-a-doop-a-doop. And then we're going to grab some black paint, some matte black paint, and we're going to go shoop-a-doop. And then we're going to grab a fine a super fine brush here. Where is it? Where is? I have one of these. Yeah, there. So we're gonna grab this brush, which I don't think I've used in like years. We're gonna mix up this paint and acrylic ink, and that's like super black, so that's gonna be perfect. Super opaque, I think, because yeah, the shade doesn't matter, but we need it to be opaque. Because this is one of those scenarios where we want, we don't want to be sketching in colors and shit, guys. We just want to get it exactly where it needs to go and then be done and not have to touch it again. All right, and then from here, just like so. If it starts to look a little diamondy like this, we're just going to go ahead and bring it down a little bit more and then just make a more gradual curve. Like that. Then go ahead, just fill in the blanks. Let's go ahead and just color it in. There we go. When I agreed to do this one on a beginner stream, I didn't think about doing the free-handed eyes. So, oof, okay, cool. And that is that. I'm a pretty big fan of that. We need that to dry a little bit. Actually, we might not. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add some pizzazz to the eye spheres. And this is a Iandan yellow paint. It's kind of like yellow. Well, it's not kind of. It's supposed to be yellow. I think I made the joke last time that's my least favorite yellow paint. And then somebody hopped on from lurking and they said, "Why don't you like that orange paint?" And I said, "Because it's supposed to be fucking yellow." So yeah, it usually ends up being a lot more orange when you put it on things than it should be. And then we're just going to go ahead and trace these eyes, which is kind of perfect for what we want here. Kind of pushing that jaundiced look. See here? Yeah, like that. And then now that we've got a nice rim around the edge here, we're just going to kind of stipple the edge. And stippling is a technique or where you just kind of make like a million dots and just to kind of rough up the edge of something. For these eyes, we don't need to worry too much about it. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to do the outside here. I really like the spooky look of the guy. I'll try this one. Actually, I kind of like it all yellow, like that. A little bit more. So what we'll do here instead is we will paint the entire of the eyes yellow. And we'll go ahead and we'll use a different color for our edges. Or maybe just a second coat. And again, this is probably step 3. You can, of course, as always, guys, with every single video that I make here, you can take this to the moon. You can continue to do this, tidying up details, increasing the contrast, all of that stuff. You can do that for as long as you want on a single model. But we're painting literally every single thing in the monster manual. And this is about what you can expect on this channel. This level, or lack thereof, of care. There we go. We have a spectator. Wow. I'm happy with that. I wouldn't want this guy coming after me in the dark. Oh. Did we kind of blow through tonight's painting things? Where's my box of shit that needs done? Yeah, my box of shit that needs done is empty. Alright, give me a sec. Yeah, actually, I'm sorry, folks. I don't have the next model ready. So this is going to be the shortest stream ever for Friday Night Magic. I mean, Friday Night Monster Manual. I'm out of stuff. I don't have my next model ready. I am so very sorry. This is actually the most number of viewers I have too, but I'm entirely out of content. Everything is either being prepped or dried or primed, so I really hope you guys that followed join me next week. I paint every Tuesday and Friday. Tuesday is just kind of like random crap, whatever is needing to be done, and so on and so forth. So like I've been working on Lord of the Rings commission, and that'll be wrapping up here soon. And then I got some other stuff I gotta do, including Pie Master. I have some of his models that I need to finish up painting and basing. And then Friday, we are now 32 monsters deep in the monster manual, getting there. So we're approaching a 10th of the way done with getting everything in there painted. And thank you so very much for joining. The fact that anyone is willing to watch this, just over the moon, over the moon. Like, I'm so happy that I get to share this with people because I love this hobby so much, and I think there's so much fun to be had in it. But I think that a lot of the times people get really scared when they try and get into it, and they don't get to see just the sheer lack of skill it can take sometimes to get wow, that is not what I wanted to do. There we go. The sheer like how easy it can be, and this is how easy it can be, guys. Like this, I didn't do anything crazy. We just kind of applied some paints in broad strokes. Anyway, thank you all so very much. I don't have anyone to raid, so if you guys want to suggest somebody, please let me know. I don't want to take this raiding party that Jade Roses so lovingly gave to me that I don't have anything to do with. And does anyone have anywhere that you would like to go? If everyone's lurking, that's totally cool, and I will stop streaming, but I'm going to give everyone a second. Oh, check out Sunday. Sunday, I will have my next video up on YouTube. It is a traveling wizards diorama. Pretty cool stuff. I'm actually really excited for next month's video, more so than I am the one that I'm currently editing, so I keep catching myself trying to work on it. So you all folks have a great time. And Ryan from my local gaming store, if this was helpful to you, please let me know. This was a request to go over washes and some really cool stuff, and I had a lot of fun with it. If you want to paint anything else with me, please let me know. I really appreciate the guidance on content. I'm always taking suggestions, because although I have to paint a lot of models, if anyone ever is like, hey, paint this, done. There we go. Give you all a final little look-see here at this guy. All right. You folks have a great rest of your night, and I will catch you all next